Let's get down to brass tacks. If you're a substitute teacher like me, the likelihood is you have a second job, and as a result, you probably don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to tell you quickly one essential skill that I think every substitute teacher needs, period. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Discourse with Dobson. I'm your teacher, Mr. Dobson. If you're a student watching this video, I suggest you keep watching. And the reason why is because it's going to give you a little bit of insight into the supply or substitute teacher world. If you're a supply or substitute teacher watching this, keep watching. I'm going to tell you one important skill that I think you have while you're out on the job supplying. Before I do, I'd like to quickly remind you that if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of this type of content, feel free to subscribe. And if you have subscribed and you haven't yet, click the bell next to the subscribe button. It notifies you when I've released new videos, and that's awesome. Enough rambling. Let's talk about this skill. That's obviously why you clicked the video. I'm going to hand it over to myself from about 5 hours ago, and I'm going to let myself from 5 hours ago talk. One of the first things that I do when I come into a classroom is I look for the attendance or a seating plan or the agenda, and I do this because I want to get to know the names of the students. One of the best things that I can tell you as a new supply teacher or someone who is struggling with the profession is you have to know the names of the students. You can probably get by with 72 minutes to 75 minutes of not knowing a single student's name other than by calling the attendance, but I guarantee you it's going to make your life a little bit more challenging and your management a little bit more difficult. Knowing the names of students allows you to call on them. It allows you to interact with them on a more personal level, and it shows them that you're not just another body in the room that's watching them. It shows them that you care. It shows them that you're capable of taking the time to think about who they are as a person and remember their name. Once I've found this attendance or this seating plan, I take a second and I read out all the names, and I do my best to try and get the names right even before the students have come in, because I want to try to avoid the awkwardness of saying things like, well, I don't know if I'm going to get your name right. And while this sometimes still does happen while I'm calling attendance, I apologize and I say, sorry for getting your name wrong. Thank you for correcting me. I'll remember that. And it's usually those students who will stick out the most in your mind. I highly recommend that you look for these things almost immediately upon coming into the classroom, just so that you can start to develop that personal connection between teacher and student. Knowing names, especially 30+ names, is tricky. It's tough, but there's a bit of excitement in the challenge, and developing techniques and strategies for remembering names is usually a good way to get students to enjoy your presence. One thing that I like to do is I like to look for duplicate names and then assign those names to positions in seats and memorize those almost right away. For example, in this class, there are 2. Another thing I like to do is if there are names that are similar to celebrity names. So for example, there is a and a that sit next to each other. So a celebrity that I think of is, 2 celebrities, Mary-Kate and Ashley. And while the names are different, it helps me jog that based off their spatial location. These are your names. I recommend that as a supply teacher, if you are struggling with supply teaching or you're new to the profession, this is like one of the biggest things outside of like coming to school early, knowing the safety protocols, becoming friends with, peers and teachers, and developing relationships with principals. All of those things are very important, of course, as well as delivering the lesson and addressing the content that the regular teacher has left behind. That stuff's really important. But if you can get to know the names of the students and you can become a familiar face, hey, that teacher, he doesn't necessarily teach at this school, but he is a supply teacher and he is around a lot. He knows my name, and that's more than some of their regular teachers. I often get told, wow, my regular teacher doesn't even know my name, and you took the time to get to know my name. And while it's not necessarily put in that same eloquent sequence of words, it does feel good knowing that these students look to you as someone who can remember who they are as a person. Definitely get to know their names. It is one of the best things that you can do as a supply teacher. You're only going to be seeing the students for 72 to 75 minutes, depending on the school that you're at. But generally, knowing the name of a student is a courteous way to show that you care. So typically what I do, if I have a prep and the room is empty, is I try to memorize the names of the students if the teacher has given me the seating plan or the layout. And then when the students come in, I ask them to sit in that layout, and I prove to them that I can say their names. So for example, what you're about to see me do is, at a school, I go through a routine of trying to get to know student names through the layout of the classroom. I often try to look at any pre-established seating plan left behind by the teacher prior to the students entering so I can get a feel for their names. If I'm lucky, I can usually get all of their names in my head at least temporarily for the period, and this includes classes of up to 35 students nowadays. There's like 30 students in this class, and there's 30 desks. And it seems like, based off of the attendance, a few additional students have been added. So the likelihood is that these students are going to have to pair up at desks, and I'm going to have to memorize 2 or 3 additional names once they come in and I ask them. But that shouldn't be too much of a problem based on the fact that I already know the seating plan in my head, and I'm capable of kind of regurgitating those names quickly to the students to prove to them that yes, I'm your supply teacher, but I do kind of know the names of this class. So you're a little bit accountable in that essence. I very much appreciate your viewership, regardless of whether or not the fact that you're a student, a supply teacher, a regular teacher, or a parent. Remember why you got into education. The whole reason why I made this video is for them, the students. Show them that you care. Show them why you got into this profession. Remember, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you like this type of content. Be sure to hit that bell if you want to be notified when I make new videos. This has been Discourse with Dobson. I've been your teacher, Mr. Dobson. Mr. Dobson, out.